Hey guys, this video, I would argue, is way past due. What was the worst collecting problem of my life? It was without a doubt video games. Let's talk about it. So, before we even start, let me get this out of the way right now. I love video games. I do. This is not a bash against video games. It's not a bash against video game collecting. This is a video specifically to talk about a problem that I developed years ago inside of gaming that then perpetuated into other areas and was something that I absolutely had to stop. I had to knock it out. I grew up in gaming. I love gaming. I would rather play a 100-hour RPG than put 100 hours into a show. Like, I have people ask me all the time, have you watched this? And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, this is this show. And then they're like a Super Sentai or something. And they're like, hey, it's only like 50 episodes. And I'm like, nah. That's a lot of sitting in one spot for a very long time. I like shows. I love movies, to be fair. But like, I could sit down and watch one movie. I can kind of dedicate to one show over the course of a time and then learn a whole bunch about it. But I don't have it in me. Now, the difference, however, hand me a game like Xenoblade Chronicles or something like that. The one not way too long ago with Rex and all of them. I put 140 hours into the first, then got that DLC extra part of the game, and put another 120 hours into that. And I was content to do so. It keeps me active. All video games tend to keep me active. Do they get boring here and there? Yes. But I just wanted to make that clear before I started talking about this. Years ago, I got involved with, of course, buying video games. I came up in Nintendo. Okay? NES. My first console ever was the Sega Genesis. That was it. Sega. And I loved that console. But that was at a time when I could have birthday parties and I could get some money and I could not afford a game. Most all of my playing at that time was maybe we owned about 10 games total. Like, I remember we owned Mortal Kombat 2, so we played it. We owned Shining Force and Shining Force 2, so we played it. It was that kind of situation. My friend owned the Ninja Turtles for it. I did not. Back then, and this is somewhat relevant because right now there's a lot of people that are mad because video games are going up in price. Yes, they are. So don't misunderstand. Yes, they are. It's a lot right now, especially now that it sounds like we could end up paying $90, $80, $100 a game. That's a lot. But in some kind of interesting twist of fate, it puts me right back to where I started. I remember one of my birthdays, I got $120, because $20 here and there and things like that. I was so excited. I mean, I was thrilled. And I went and I got a game. They took me to Toys R Us. I looked through the games and I found one, man. I found one. I found Superman from Sunsoft. I paid $70 for that game. I'm not exaggerating. I remember it. I bought it. I bought Superman, Sega Genesis, from developer Sunsoft, $70. And it was more than that. I remember I paid the tax. Because I remember that was also one of those times that I was like, $70? Awesome. That'll give me this much. I'll have this much left. And I was like thinking about what else I could buy. And then, of course, I didn't end up with the amount that I was supposed to have left. And I was like, I don't understand. The game was only $70. And they were like, yeah, but you got to pay tax. And I was like, well, then why don't they just put that on the price tag? I remember this, having this conversation with my mom. I bought that game. I hated that game. Hated it. Now we're at this point where, ironically, the prices that I paid as a kid, they're back. Arguably, still cheaper than when I was a kid. I remember my first job. My first official job outside of things like detasseling, working for the 301. I worked for a place called the 309 Complex. It was an A, B, C, D, E group of buildings that were all labeled 309. So 309A, 309B, 309C, yada, yada. I mowed their lawns and raked leaves and things like that. I did it for basically 3 of the different buildings there. And every now and then the 4th building would kind of be like, hey, are you doing the lawn? You want to earn another 25? And I'd be like, of course I do. So yeah, that's where I got my money. But my first job, I remember, was at a theater. And I can remember $7.21 an hour. So I think about that, and I think about what I make now. The cost of living is crazier now than it was. So I'm not trying to undercut this. But just numbers alone, video games are still kind of technically cheaper than when I was a kid. They're just, because now they cost about what they did back then, but I make way more than I would have back then today. I got to pay a bunch of bills and everything, so it doesn't really equal out necessarily the same. I'm just making the argument here that it's an interesting irony that it's both cheaper, the same price, and more expensive. It's just kind of wild when I think about it. That's where my mind was. I wanted to kind of get that out. But look, there came a time when I was doing lawns and all that, and I was also working at the theater, and I was pulling money, and it was starting to become a big thing, and I got involved with this group. This was right after, maybe a year after the release of the PlayStation 2, maybe 2 years after the release of the PlayStation 2. It was still a new system. I remember this because one of the very first games that I ever owned for the PlayStation 2 was, I bought Final Fantasy 2. I bought Final Fantasy X and my PlayStation 2 at the exact same time. And was blown away. Blown away. I still love Final Fantasy X, and maybe you could call it a nostalgia factor, but that game was beautiful. It was mind expanding. It blew my mind how much of a jump it was to go from, at the time, I preferred Final Fantasy VII. I liked the way Final Fantasy VIII looked. I didn't like Final Fantasy IX. I never have. Then I jumped from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, and I'm blown away. I bought my PlayStation 2 with my check from Walmart. I bought Final Fantasy X with my check from Walmart, and I played nothing but that for a while. The second game that I remember that I picked up was when I came back. So I was living in Alabama at the time, and then I came back to where I am, and I bought a second game. I bought The Summoner. Was it The Summoner 2? It was The Summoner. What I specifically remember the most is that the world that loaded in felt huge. Like I was like, this is amazing. You could just go anywhere. And I also very much remember that the disc was red, and that kind of blew me away. But it was around this time that I developed a problem. I got involved with a group. Kind of one that I helped to start, to be fair. So it's not like, hey, these guys got me into this and caused me a problem. It was me and a couple of other guys. We made a club called Gamers United. And we would mostly meet at my buddy's house. He had like this upstairs area that had like its own living room and a bedroom space and whatnot. It was like a second house upstairs. It was kind of cool. I don't know if his dad put it together for him or whatever, but we basically had like a big gaming area. And his dad was always off at like APA things, American Pool Association. So like oftentimes he wasn't there for our big meetings or whatever, so we would like have run of the house. And when we couldn't do that, every now and then we would actually put our money together and we would rent like a hall for a little while. There was a VFW hall that wasn't too far away from literally walking distance. We could literally ride our bikes there easily. And we kind of got to talking with the owner every now and then, and we kind of would be able to set up like gaming nights where we could take a couple of TVs and hook them up and put them at the ends of the tables and play. It was cool. But in order for this to work, we started choosing team leaders. I was chosen as the PlayStation 2 team leader. And video games, at the time, hit an all-time low. I mean, they were accessible, man. I had the PlayStation 2, which means I had access to the entire PlayStation 1 library, entire PlayStation 2 library, GameStop and Electronics Boutique, EB Games and whatnot were just, there was like 5 or 6 of them in the area. There was also Hollywood Video and all these other like rental shops, like the Real Thing Video was the thing that we had, and a Second Cinema that we had. And they were basically on the verge of starting to go out of business because games were so affordable that these rental services had no purpose anymore. I could take each check and go out and buy 2 or 3 video games without blinking. Didn't even matter. Didn't hurt me at all. Meant nothing. It was during this time that I got very involved in like buying PlayStation 2 games. Whatever they were. If it said 2 players, we bought it. I would buy 2, 3, 4 games a check without even thinking about it. Just, never played that, never played that, never played that. That's a new release. Do. And then we would hold these things. We'd do like tournaments and whatnot. It was a lot of fun. You know, somebody basically put their hat down or whatever, and everybody throw in like a $5 bill or something like that, and we'd do like a fighting game tournament or something, and then whomever actually won the bracket or whatever would get all the money, and throughout the course of the night, we'd like bet $1 and things like that here and there, and we just played video games, man. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Fantastic memories. Really. But I developed a habit during this time. And I got myself into the mentality that games were cheap and that we would play them. Now, throughout the course of my life, I've always kind of been a person that believes in getting something out of what you put in. If you're going to drop $70 on an item, you better get something out of it. I still have that mentality today. We talk about it. Everything on that shelf has a purpose, a reason, a story. If it doesn't, it's got to go. It's got to go. I feel that way. When I buy a comic book, I want to read it. I don't want it to sit in a long box. I don't want it to sit on the shelf for the next 5 years and then say later on, oh yeah, I own that, but I never read it. I hate that. I hate it when I do that. I can't stand it. But video games are not just a money investment, they're a time investment. A figure is different. Sometimes you buy Power Girl. That's right, mandatory Power Girl appearance. And she sits on the shelf. She sits on my desk. Every day I come in here, I look at her. She's done what she is supposed to do. She's right there. I look at her. I pose her, I move her, I bring her into videos. I paid $30. I own her. And I get use out of her every day. One could argue you will get more long-term use out of a statue than you will a video game console. Sooner or later, a video game console will collect dust. And you will not play it anymore. A statue, you look at it. If you look at a statue every single day, it has done its job. It is a physical representation of a fandom that you love. It's right there. You look at it. It's done its job. Video games are meant to be played. It's the way I feel. But I got into a point when I just bought games. They were affordable. They were cheap. It was simple. They were everywhere. There were all these businesses that were going out of business. Weird phrasing. But it was. Guys, around that time, like we were moving towards the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, I didn't buy one game console. Every time I bought all three. I had a GameCube, a PlayStation 2, an Xbox 360, a PlayStation 3, a PlayStation 4, a Vita, a PSP, a 3DS. I bought all game systems. I bought them all. I played everything. To say something like I'm a Nintendo fanboy or something like that, or a PlayStation fanboy or an Xbox fanboy or something like that, couldn't be farther from the truth. I played video games, man. I bought every system. I bought all kinds of games. And it was because in my absolute coming of age, when I had money, these things were dirt cheap. Dirt! Like, to live in that time is hard to explain to somebody that doesn't know. Guys, I'm 41. 41. But 20 years ago, the game market changed. And I mean it changed, guys. Things like Second Cinema, Real Thing Video, Family Video, rental shops, Hollywood Video, Second Cinematic, they started going out of business and they started liquidating stock. I remember one night, Second Cinema was going out of business. They were doing a liquidation. Me and two of my buddies threw all our money together. And this was right before I got a car. Right before I got a car. We knew the writing was on the wall. And they were going to start selling a lot of stuff. And I was like, oh man, we got to get in on this. We took a lot of money. Like, I saved up like 240. My buddy kicked in 100. We just like was doing lawns and everything we could do to gather money for like a month and a half or whatever. And we go up to Second Cinema and we bought out their PlayStation rack, man. I went home with Bushido Blade 1, Bushido Blade 2. That's where I actually got Guys, God Bless the Ring. Like, all kinds of games, man. Games that even today, I don't even remember what they were. Games that I'd never played again. But we bought them, man. And like I said, that led into me having enough of a game collection that I was able to start this group, this Gamers United. And Gamers United, we started buying like crazy. And it wasn't just that video stores were going out. Like, I used to have a round that I would make. I would get off of work and I would drive down to Hollywood Video and I would check it out. Then I would drive over to the mall and I would check out the GameStop downstairs and the EB upstairs. And then I would leave and check a second GameStop on my way home and then leave there. And on my way from there, there was a video rental place that was like kind of shutting stuff down where I lived, like a family video. And I would go in there. Oh, man, we bought games. It became an issue later on that I got myself into this bad habit of being able to buy games. Why wouldn't you, right? Well, here's what ended up happening. Gamers United stopped meeting. Everybody kind of got jobs and things got a little busier and so on and so forth, and it became a little bit more difficult to meet up. And I moved out of the area. I moved down by the mall and whatnot for a while, and before I knew it, I was like living on my own. And I still had buddies and whatnot that came over all the time, but like the attitude had changed. We weren't meeting up like that anymore. And so I played a lot more games on my own. And this is where my problem really started. I started realizing that I would buy fighting games under this impression that like everybody was going to come over and play them. I'd play a lot of those fighting games alone. I bought racing games. I bought first-person shooters. I couldn't even play them. I have a video on this channel that talks about how first-person shooters make me sick. They still do to this day. I cannot play them. And yet I bought them. I would buy anything. Like, I had a problem where there were like these used game stores and whatnot that would open up, and I would go there and look through and be like, oh, I don't have that. I bought like the Looney Tunes fighting game. Why? I bought Celebrity Deathmatch. Who cares? That Simpsons wrestling game? I don't like wrestling. But man, if it was there, I would buy it. And then I started getting this mentality, and I started justifying it. I started saying, well, you know what? One of these days, I'm going to hit a point where I'm not going to have a lot of money. And I know life will get a little tighter here and there, different times. And I'd rather have a stockpile of stuff to play when that day comes on than like all of a sudden, like now I basically can't afford anything and I've only got like 2 games or whatever. I'd rather have this stockpile now. And I took that mentality to other areas too. I started doing that with comic books. Stupid. I ended up with like 24 long boxes of material I hadn't read. I mean, I was lagging behind in terms of what I could read. It was impossible to play everything that was on the shelf. Half the stuff I would forget that I would even have. There were games that I had that were from like 5 years back that had never even been unwrapped. I still have a PlayStation 2 game on the shelf from that time that I have never unwrapped. It was a Shin Megami Tensei game. It was it's actually getting a remaster right now. That detective game from Shin Megami Tensei. I don't even remember the name of it right now, but I have that game. I have it on the shelf right now for PS2. It's never even been unwrapped. Ever. I bought Final Fantasy XI and never opened it and never played it. Ever. But I owned Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10-2, and Tactics. I need 11, right? I bought that game knowing I was not going to play it. I was at the GameStop. My buddy was with me. He bought it, and I bought it. He went home and installed it and played it. I went home and put it on my shelf and looked at it like it was an accomplishment. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That was bad. This was a terrible habit for me to break. I developed a literal problem. Video games were stacked up everywhere. I had a shelving system like this. I covered the entire wall in video games, then started covering the floor, then started buying shelves. You could argue I'm doing the same thing in toys, but I would argue it's not the same thing. I have hard rules now. I'm constantly evaluating the collection. When I do replace something with a better version of it, I remove the old item. I sell a lot of this material. It's not the same monster. It was very hard to part with a lot of those video games. I had to fight with myself as to what I even wanted to keep because I started running out of space. And at one point in time, I said, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? What benefit does this give me? And I started looking at other people that had like big, awesome game collections, right? Some of them had collections bigger than mine. And I remember I started falling back into this thought pattern like, I have so many games I need to beat. And my friends stopped coming over. You get older, life gets a little more difficult, some people get 2 jobs, kids get involved, so on and so forth. And before I knew it, I was at this point where I was like, now I've got all these games, but I don't play any of them. And I bought them all in such a rush that I no longer have the desire. I bought a third of them because I didn't know what they were, and then I bought another third of them through FOMO, and then I bought a third of them because they were like nostalgic or they were actually games I wanted. And there were some games that I was buying them so extremely that I would buy one game that I really wanted to play. I mean, I wanted it. This was going to be it for me. My game. I went to the midnight, I picked it up, I bought the collector's edition, I'm in, I'm all in, let's go. I turn on the game, I start playing, I get 2 days in, a new game comes out, and I'm like, oh my God. I go get that game. And I bring it home, and I'm like, I don't want to just buy these games and like not be playing them. So then I take that game, I put it away, put that back on the shelf, I'll beat that later, put this game in, new game. I wasn't completing games. I wasn't even getting the gist of some games. It was just an absolute roller coaster of buy, think about it later. I brought that mentality into comic books. That was stupid. I held that mentality in video games for too long. And I had to start making decisions. I had to start figuring out, especially when games started disappearing. This became a problem too. Sometimes I would move, or these games would get like loaned out, or people would take them. And I would never be able to figure out where they went, because either 1, I wouldn't even know they were gone, 2, I wouldn't even realize that I ever had them in the first place, or 3, they were stolen because people started realizing, and this is a people problem, but there were a couple guys that started realizing that they knew what I was playing and what I wasn't playing, and they knew what they could sneak off the shelf and sell to GameStop for rent money. Yes, real story, true story. I finally had to open my eyes. I had to realize that it's not such a bad thing that I love gaming. It was a bad thing the way I was going about it. I had to take a step back. And I did. And I realized the more steps I took back, the less important it became to me to buy games, the more important it became to me to experience them. And I started finding a natural love for video games all over again. I started playing games and completing them, running full 200-hour intakes on RPGs. Put a 70-hour on this one, immediately go to another one, put 70 there, put 60 there, put 40 there, put 110 there. I was beating games again, and I was enjoying them, and I was going through full storylines and seeing the narratives and playing fighting games like where I actually played and enjoyed them and would like go through the storyline part of it and everything and kind of like get into the characters. And I started loving video games again, but in a completely different way. And I started being able to tell myself when enough was enough. Like when I was playing a game and I would get 30, 40 hours in and the game just wasn't clicking with me, it wasn't doing it, that's not a game for me. And I don't have to feel bad about that. I just turn the game off, sell the game to recoup whatever loss that I could get out of it, and I try again. Not every game is for you. I posted an old video before this one because I wanted to give you an idea of where this mentality was at one of my major peaks when I was selling off my game collection by the stacks. Because I had realized that games had started doing certain practices that I could no longer get behind. And while I could accept it for some games absolutely crossed a line, and just because I loved a series didn't mean that the actions that they were putting out I should be supporting necessarily. And a game, first and foremost, is to be played and enjoyed. And if I wasn't getting those things out of those games, I needed to figure out why. And the truth of it was the oversaturation of the way I decided to collect. It wasn't fun anymore. And it broke me for a while. It took me out of video games for a while. And as I came back in, I started discovering that the landscape had changed dramatically. And I was part of the people that helped push that agenda in the gaming space by just buying into all the FOMO. You need. I need. I bought games I didn't want, played games I didn't like. Stupid. It was the worst collection habit of my life. And it was hard to break. I thought this video would be interesting. Because I also want to be very realistic about how collecting can walk a fine line. Some collecting can lead to addiction. Some collecting can lead to hoarding. Some collecting is not healthy. You have to have a balance between your space, your income, and your interest. And all of it has to match up to make sense to what you're getting and what you get out of it. And gaming was not hitting that mark. Do you guys have stories like this? Do you have areas where you started realizing that you had developed a collecting problem, or that a certain thing that was for you somehow at some point just lost its splendor? I still play video games. I still love video games. I recently bought that. I think it's called Suidoken. Is it Suidoken? Somebody told me that's the way you pronounce it. I could be wrong. Could be Sudoken, or I think it's Suidoken. But anyways, I bought that remaster, that 1 and 2, and I beat part 1, and it was so cool to go back through that game. And I'm looking forward to playing part 2. And I play a lot of games. I do prefer the Switch more than anything else because with my lifestyle, I like to be able to take that with me. I go to the Buffalo Wild Wings with my kid. We sit down, we play. That's important to me. It's also important to me the ease of access that the Switch has allowed my family. When I'm not on the TV, I can undock the Switch, bring it up here, and in between editing sessions while something is rendering, I can level grind or do a fight or two. And my kid can just pick her Switch up, go downstairs and hit the dock and sit down at the TV. The Switch, for me, has been the best system of my life. I do actually believe that now, given the time that I've had with it. I think it is the best console of my life. The most favorable console I've ever been a part of. Not that I didn't have an absolute love for the PlayStation 2, but nothing was this level of convenient while still giving me everything I wanted from gaming and still providing AAA and offset experience. It has allowed me RPGs, racing, fighting, AAA. It's been good. I've really liked it. And it's really kept up with my adult, very busy lifestyle. Between this show, working 60 hours a week, and things of that nature, constantly driving back and forth, my kid and things like that. The fact that me and my wife, we're a one-car family right now, that's a lot. Like, that's a lot of grocery shopping and driving her to work and picking her up and driving myself to work and making sure that everything links up. And, like, it's a lot, guys. It's a lot of adult responsibility that kind of pulled heavy on my life. But the Switch doesn't care about that. I just pick it up, put it in the case, and take it wherever I want to go. I can play it for any amount of time I want, turn it off anytime I want. It'll be waiting for me when I get back. I love the Switch. I'm looking forward to the Switch too. I won't lie. I understand why people are mad. But just like I can justify things back here, the Switch fits my lifestyle, man. It's the gaming console for me. And you could talk about things like the Steam Deck and whatnot all you want. I'll admit I also love Mario. For what it's worth, Nintendo has a seal of quality. Other consoles do too. I still play my PlayStation. I still play my Xbox. I love to sit downstairs with my kid and play through old games, games I never got to play, and new games all the time. But on a personal level, that Switch has been real good to me. We'll have to see where things go, but I do want the Switch too. I'm not rushing out for the pre-order. I gotta watch this develop. I'm not stupid. I learned a lot from my gaming problems. Anyways, I know this was a long video, but I thought this was a big topic and I thought it was something I really wanted to cover. Let me know, guys. Later on.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.